Hello GRT fam, my name is Cynthia and I am the new face and voice around here. Welcome to episode 4 of the Graph News, brought to you by the Graphtronauts. Looking back at our previous episode, you may recall that we covered the story of Vitalik Buterin, who was bullish on the graph and potentially saw its use in helping Ethereum. Well, adding more fuel to the fire, the Graph released a blog post on the 2nd of December outlining how the graph attempts to fill the gap left by EIP 444, a problem Ethereum and Vitalik face. The blog goes on to state that it will highlight the graph's approach to the verifiability of data and the roadmap for removing trust throughout the protocol, dewatering parallels between the trust models of the Ethereum and the graph. The blog goes on to argue exactly how Ethereum can benefit from a separate query protocol like the graph. We at the Graphtronauts strongly recommend that you read the blog at our official website for more information. But here are our thoughts on the matter. Many dApps use blockchain as verification of the authenticity of data and transactions they are processing at that moment. It's on the ETH chain, so it must be true. They don't need to know anything about the past other than the fact that it actually existed. They don't need to process millions of blocks if all they care about is the data on the last one. But for dApps, that requires historic data. This could be an account balance or token prices. The chain needs a mechanism to provide that. EIP 444 would shorten the process of verifying every previous blocks from dApps that only need current data, while still providing a mechanism to obtain the historic data via the graph. It feels like we are at the beginning of something big surrounding the graph and Ethereum, and we at the Graphtronauts aim to be able to share such news with you as soon as possible. Next, we would like to bring you a brilliant piece of content released by crypto journalist Laura Shin. Laura is a well-respected content creator within the space and boasts a huge following on Twitter. Why are we talking about Laura, I hear you ask? Well, because her latest masterpiece revolves around the graph. In her article, Laura starts off boldly with a headline that resonates with us: how the graph demonstrates the power of decentralization and Web3. The article quickly brings to light one of the biggest issues we see on Web 2 today, that the people involved in the project from the ground floor, consumers like me and you, have no say in who put top-level execs in charge of these big corporations we see today. Laura goes on to discuss the aims of Web 3 and how the Google of blockchain, the graph, can go on to help these aims become a reality. Those who are invested intellectually into the graph know of the reach it currently has. This was further reiterated by the article in which our very own Tegan Klein is said to have pointed out that some of the most widely used crypto data providers, such as CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, and the Messari, use the subgraphs of other projects such as Uniswap. While the article doesn't highlight anything new, we at the Graphtronauts think it is important to show again the noise the graph is making in the crypto space. Last week, we brought to you comments from Vitalik, and this week, Laura Shin. Who knows who it will be next week? Let us know in the comments who you'd like to see speak about the graph next. Now, with the latest news wrapped up, let's see what standout tweets we've seen this week. We start off with some exciting news from the community. By now, many of you have heard of Curation Station, a community Telegram group focused on the most important roles within the graph ecosystem. Being one of the most important Wave 3 grant recipients, they've been working on expanding their reach through the creation of a new website, providing useful tools to assist curators. Keep an eye out for it next year. To learn more and assist in their goals, please join the Telegram group by scanning the QR code on the screen and reach out to GraphGod on Twitter. Moving on, another big collaboration for the Graph protocol was recently announced. As outlined by this tweet, the Oracle Flux protocol plans to integrate data indexed by the Graph with their smart contracts. This is a huge deal, as it will allow developers to pull data from subgraphs, creating the ability to execute code based on events both on and off chain. Even better, since both projects are chain agnostics, this opens the door to a multitude of new use cases. Be sure to check out the Flux protocol on Twitter to learn more about what this integration will mean for developers in the future. With some interesting tweets looked at this week, let's have a look at some of the latest data from the past 7 days. The active delegator count has increased by 49 delegators, bringing the total to 8,159, all delegating to an indexer and playing their role in securing the network. If you would like to learn more about delegation, tune in to the Delegator Office Hours hosted by our own Paolo. The recording of the first call is available on YouTube. Scan the QR code on the screen to go and watch this, and be sure to set a reminder for the 17th of December for episode 2. In this episode, they will be showcasing the new Graphtronauts app, discussing the Graph token economics, and a Q&A to round the episode off. In the last 7 days, the GRT holder count has increased by 559 wallets. This brings the total of the active holders to 88,601. The total amount of GRT that has been burnt now stands at 17,341,337. This is an increase of 21,746. The amount of subgraphs that are deployed on the mainnet now stands at 292, an increase of 2 subgraphs from last week. The amount of curators or signaling subgraphs is 2,329. This is showing an increase of 4 curators than the previous week. In our curation segment this week, we wanted to show a little educational video to help you further understand curation and the role a curator plays in the network.
Data powers the world around us. It's how we're able to communicate, trade, understand what's happening, and make decisions. On the graph, data is grouped into open APIs called subgraphs. Anyone can access data from subgraphs with just a few keystrokes using a convenient query language called GraphQL. As data keeps getting added onto the graph, individuals need to organize and surface the most relevant data in a decentralized way. That's where curators come in. Curators signal on quality subgraphs by depositing GRT, the graph's native token, in return for curation shares. Curation shares are minted on a bonding curve, which means that the earlier you signal, the more shares you get. It also means that when you go to withdraw your GRT, you could end up with more or less graph tokens than you started with. When curators signal on a subgraph, that creates a reward to incentivize indexers to index that subgraph. For their work, curators earn a cut of query fees on the subgraphs they're curating. By accurately assessing which subgraphs are most valuable and likely to produce query fees, curators are able to efficiently allocate resources on the network and help organize the data for the crypto economy.
In the community this week, our friends at GRTIQ recently welcomed Hiroki Katabi, research analyst at The Block. Hiroki is a brilliant researcher and thinker with an incredible professional pedigree that includes 2 doctorates, one in behavioral science and one in cognitive science, along with a master's degree in psychology.
Right now, feel pretty confident that it's going to be a multi-chain future. And in a multi-chain, multi-protocol future, it's going to be really important to build a web on top of all these different protocols. And essentially, the graph is doing that. So yeah, that enticed me and made me think it has a lot of promise.
During their conversation, Hiroki shares his journey from academia to the crypto space, joining The Block, his research interests and insights, and his ideas on the Web3 and the graph. Once again, this is another fantastic episode and one you should tune into. Scan the QR code on the screen to listen to the podcast, which is available on multiple platforms. Come and join the Graphtronauts community. Scan the QR code for our Twitter, Telegram, and YouTube accounts. The contents of this production do not constitute as tax, legal, or investment advice. Take responsibility for your own decisions, consult the proper professionals, and do your own research. At the time of production, the stats and data were correct, and the stats and data are subject to change. See you next week, GRT fam.